We are now looking at solving radical equations. And we're doing this unit or this lesson as a part of our unit on radical functions. And just as a reminder, a radical function is a function that has a radical sign in it. So we're talking square root, cube root, quartic root, fourth root, fifth root. That's what a radical function is. So when we solve a radical equation, what we're actually doing is solving an equation that has a radical sign in it. So the first example we're going to look at in this video is square roots. And I'd like to thank my 5-year-old daughter again for the use of her markers. She has no idea I'm using them, but that doesn't matter. So we're going to solve this one first. And this is your basic square root function. So what I'm going to do is, remember, you have multiplicative inverse, division inverses. There's all kinds of inverses, and we're always going to perform the inverse operation to solve an equation. So the inverse operation of taking the square root would be to square the function. So in order for me to solve this particular equation, I'm going to actually square both sides. I have a square root or a radical, and in order to negate that, I have to do the opposite operation, which is the inverse operation, which is squaring it. So I square this, x plus 4, the square root of x plus 4 squared just gives me x plus 4, and 6 squared gives me 36. So that's my first step. And now that I've completed this step, I just need to solve for x. So in order to solve for x, I'm going to follow regular algebra, and I'm going to move the constant over to the other side. I'm going to subtract the 4 from both sides, so x equals 32. And that is your answer. If you wanted to check your answer, you would take the 32 and you would plug it into the equation, substitute it back in for the x. And you would see that 32 plus 4 would give you 36, and the square root of 36 is indeed 6. So that's how you solve a basic radical equation with square roots. So let's look at this one. This one's a little bit more complex. We have a couple of extra steps that we have to take in this particular equation because we don't simply just have the radical sign. We have another constant here, and we have a constant in front. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to move the added or subtracted value. So I'm going to take this minus 7, and I'm going to add it to both sides. That will cancel, and that will give me 3 times the square root of 2x minus 1 equals 15. So all I've done is move the 7 over to the other side. Now I've created a situation for myself where all I have is multiplication on this side. Now I can divide both sides by what's in front, 3 and 3. By doing this, the 3 divided by 3 gives me a value of 1, which simply leaves me with 2x minus 1. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now I'm ready to do the same operation I did over here in the first example. I'm going to square both sides. Because I have a square root, the inverse operation would be to square it. So the square root of 2x minus 1 squared would simply be 2x minus 1. And 5 squared is 25. So for my next step, I'm going to move the 1 over, just like regular algebra, plus 1, plus 1. So I'm left with 2x equals 26. And my last step, divide both sides by 2. So x equals 13. So this is actually how you solve equations that have square roots. The next video we're going to look at will actually solve equations that have cube roots.